Hello, this is a tutorial for Node.js and for that case mean stack, and I'm gonna be showing you guys how to connect the MongoDB database in the simplest way as possible. So stay tuned for that. Hello, so we're gonna start with the setting up the project, and for that we're gonna use command prompt. One second. And we're gonna type in, we're actually gonna make a new directory, so let's navigate to the desktop, and we're gonna type cd, actually we're gonna type mkdir, and we're gonna call it mean app. So then we're gonna navigate to the folder mean app, and there um, I'm actually assuming that you have Node.js installed, and so we're gonna do that. We're gonna create a express project using Node.js. So we're gonna type express and the name of the app, which is mean app, and we're gonna use two dashes, or actually just one dash, or two dashes, I believe it is, EJS. So express mean app and two dashes EJS. So there we have our project. So let's actually, yeah, let's navigate to the mean app folder that we created again. I don't know how, I forgot about that. So here we're gonna call npm install to install the dependencies. npm install. So we're gonna type npm install and then press enter. Wait for that to load. So now we have the dependencies installed. So we're gonna install Mongoose. So let's start by doing npm install Mongoose, and we'll just leave it like that and press enter. So now that's loaded. So let's get our templates set up so that we could use them. Give me a second. Open folder with the Sublime text, and we're gonna do users. We're gonna navigate to the desktop in order to open that file, that folder. Should be around here. Okay, let's open that. So we're gonna navigate to views and index.js. We're gonna go to Angular, um, and get the URL so we could install the library in our view. So Angular JS, and let's go to the website, the official website. So let's do Angular 1 for now, and let's copy that link in the CDN. Copy, and let's go back to our template. I believe it's after. Let's just put it in the head. Let's put it in the head of the of the template. And also I want to get Bootstrap so that we could style it fairly quick. And this is actually gonna be a tutorial on how to communicate with the database and use it with Angular with data binding. So let's go and look for Bootstrap, the URL. And we're gonna go to download Bootstrap, and let's go to so let's copy this right here, the latest compiled minified CSS. Let's copy that, go back to our template, paste that on top of the Angular library, and I think we're good to go from here. So let's go to, so let's create our first model. So right click on the mean. We're gonna create a new folder, not a new file. New folder, and the name is gonna be models. So right click on that, and then put a new file. Click on new file. So the new file is gonna be data schema.js, and save that. Press enter and erase this, and then we can start by calling in let's see, mongoose equals require mongoose. So we're gonna install our dependencies on this JS file, and we have to link this file to the route. So let's go to the route, and we're gonna go to index. Actually, it's in the app file, sorry about that. And we're gonna go to, after the body parser, we're gonna call in the dependency, mongoose dependency. So let's do that. Mongoose equals require. So now that we have that there, let's call in the actual file of mongoose, the model that we created. So it's gonna be require models data model data schema. This this is how we pull in that file into our app, the Express app. But that should do the job. So let's continue. So let's do var the name of the schema, which is gonna be data schema, and we're gonna set that equal to new mongoose schema. Okay, we're gonna open that, and this is where we actually create what we're gonna be saving. So if you want to create a URL so that later you can insert it to an image, so that you can save images to the database without actually uploading it to your server. So I'll show you how to do that. So we're gonna start by URL, and we're gonna set that to string because we're gonna be saving a string in there, and we're gonna type a description, and we're gonna set that to string. So now that we have our basic schema, we're gonna export it, and we're gonna do mongoose.model pick run data schema. We're gonna call it data model so we could use it in another file. In the routes we're gonna use this schema, so let's name it something that it's easy to remember. And then in the second parameter, it's gonna be the actual name of it in the file that we're in right now. So this has to be equal to this in order for this to work. So these two have to be equal. And then this could be anything you want, any name. So I just named it data model to be for the simplicity of this tutorial. So let's continue and save that. Save. I'm pressing Control S to save, so you won't see me go to File and Save. So, and after that, we're gonna go ahead and set up our routes, and we're gonna go to the front end and set up the main template so that we can receive input. And after that, we're gonna set up so that we could use the URL that we save so that it could show up on the screen on the browser. So let's start by doing that. So the divider div class row, and we're gonna do column, actually another div class column, let's see, MD. We're gonna do 8, and we're gonna set another column, but this one's gonna be an offset, a medium size offset. We're gonna set it to 3 or 2 actually. We'll see how that turns out. And here we're gonna do input. So we're gonna put an input field, and this is gonna be type text, and we're gonna set the ng model to URL. So the basic bare bones of this is gonna be create the front end first, and once you have the front end, the input fields and everything set up, you actually, it's easier for you to set up a server that way and a Mongo database because you already have the front end and basically you're just wiring it all up. So let's continue doing this. Okay, input type text URL. Placeholder. Placeholder is gonna be and enter URL. Actually, image URL. Enter image URL. Type text ng model URL. And right at the bottom, we're gonna start a ng repeat. So we'll set that to div class column md, and this is gonna be let's set this to 6, and the top we'll instead of 8 we're gonna set it to 6. And we're gonna add another one. Actually, let's just leave it like that for now. And here we're gonna start an unordered list. And an li, a list here. And we're gonna set the ng repeat here and the li. Ng repeat. Ng repeat. And we're just gonna leave it like that so that later we come and edit it. And we're gonna set an image. And we're gonna set the image width to 100% so that later we could edit it on CSS and it can be responsive. So we'll just leave that, and the source we're gonna leave it empty. So let's go back to our files in the column right here. We're gonna go to public. This is where all the static files are gonna be at, and we're gonna go to JavaScript, new file, and we're gonna call this Angular mod JS. Save it, Control S, enter. Delete that, and then we could start our app. Angular. Actually, it's a variable app equals Angular dot module. The name of it is gonna be my app, and we're gonna set that aside like this. And we're gonna start by creating a controller. And the name is gonna be main CTRL, capital C. And we're gonna do complete the controller call. This is gonna be scope. And then we call a function. Type in scope because this is important. if you don't have scope here and in the parameter, it's not gonna work. So just a heads up. So let's start by setting up a scope function, So let's start that. Scope dot get info equals function, and here we're gonna get let's just leave this for now like that. This is how we're gonna get the info from the input fields, and we're gonna record them. And here we're gonna create an array of objects. So let's start variable my images equals array. So it's gonna be URL, and we're gonna just get a random image from Google. So let's go. Let's see. Copy image location. So right click on any image and select copy image location, and just paste that on the URL. And we're gonna do a comma, description, description, and we're just gonna say bootstrap logo, and we're done with that. And for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just gonna repeat this. So there's a couple images we could look at when we're done. And let me see. So now that we have this set up, basic setup for collecting data, or at least have our data, a preset data that we could use on our template for now, before we enter our database on our server. So let's go to our template, our view, and we're gonna call in on the body ng app and set that equal to the name of it, and I believe it's my app. Check my app. So this has to be the same in order for this to work. So ng app and ng controller, and I believe is main ctrl. Just double check that, main ctrl. So now what we do is we're gonna get a scope here, variables. So in the back end, in the JavaScript file in the front end. So let's set that file. Let me see. So let's do a global variable scope dot image equals my images. So with this, we could use it on the view, so that we could go through this list with using ng repeat. So let's do that. So let's go here and put image in images in. Let's get the variable. This is the one you're gonna use. Whatever this is, whatever you name this is what you have to use in the ng repeat. So it's image, and here you can name it anything you want. but I'd rather name it something related to what it really is. So let's do that. And then here we're gonna do ng source, ng src, set that equal to images, and this. So now whatever you call here becomes this right here. So image is now in images. Um, so now you use this to call in whatever it's inside image. I hope you understand that part. If not, I'll try to explain it better as I go along with this. So let's do URL, images URL, and I believe it can work now. So let's see. Let's start our server. And we're gonna do node bin slash www. So node bin slash www, and that's gonna start our server. So let's go to localhost 3000. So localhost 3000, and the image is not there. So let's check the console to see what's going on. And apparently I'm not sure. So let's go back to our view and check what's going on with this. So instead of doing this, we're just gonna try it and do it directly from there. So let's do scope dot my images. So now we have to use this scope in our view. So let's do that. What's it called? My images. And let's see if that works. So let's do Nodemon bin www. If you don't know how to install Nodemon, just Google that and it'll show up when because I'm using Nodemon to better this tutorial. So it started. So let's do that. So let's get the uncompressed Angular file, Angular library for that sake, and let's copy that and go back to our view. And we're gonna paste that in the Angular.js source on the script tag so that we could view what the error is. So let's see. So I probably named the file incorrectly, so let's go check that. So now I know what the problem is. I forgot to, of course, include it in the script, in the view. So let's do that right now. So in order to find that file, we're gonna go to JavaScripts with the S, and that's important because if you don't put the S, you're not gonna get the file loaded. So Angular, the name of the file, Angular mod.js, and that's in the JavaScript folder, JavaScripts folder. And let's save that and let it refresh on the browser. So there's something wrong in our Angular app. So make sure you save the Angular file, Angular mod.js, and let's see how that works. So here are all the images that we have on our array of objects, and so I had an error when I started this, and it was that I didn't include the file in the index.ejs, and here it is. I included it. Now I included it and save this file, and now it should load like this on the browser, and here are all the images. So what we're gonna do now is set up wire this up to the Mongo database, and I'll show you how to connect to it. But before that, we're gonna create a Heroku account. So let's go do that right now. So go to heroku.com. So once you create a Heroku account, you could actually it'll ask you to put in your credit card in order to use the database that they have. So I don't think that should be a problem, but set up a new app. Here, create a new app. The name of it is gonna be my app. My app 2016. My main app 2016, we're gonna call it. So once you have that done, go to resources, and right here you're gonna type Mongo, and you're gonna select mlab MongoDB right here. You're just gonna, this is where they ask you to put in your credit card, but they're not gonna charge you unless you buy dinos, I believe they're called. but you should be good by just selecting sandbox for free. So click provision, and now click right here in the mlab MongoDB. It'll open a new page. And here you're gonna create a new user. So let's create a new user, and mine is gonna be admin, and of course I'm not gonna tell you the password. Actually, my public you're gonna see my password anyways, and I'm gonna delete this app anyways after this, but for the sake of showing you, this is gonna be it. So create a new user, and up here there's gonna be a, a section that says MongoDB URI. So select that at the bottom, copy it, and we're gonna go to our app. We're gonna go to our app.js, and right before the index, okay, this require is supposed to be on top of the index, the route. So let's do that right now. Cut and paste on top, and then let's go copy that link again. So copy, and right at the bottom of it, we're gonna connect to Mongoose database. Connect. And this is gonna be our username and password, which is my public password. Actually, let's delete that. So right here, you're gonna paste the URL, and right here where it says DB user with the little with the greater than or less than signs, you're gonna delete that, and you're gonna type in the user you created. So it's admin, and then here it says DB password. You're gonna delete that, and you're gonna type the password. So let's finish that, and let's save. So it should be connected now to the database. So let's go back to the to the front end, and here we're gonna collect the info from the view. So here the engine model we're using is the URL, and we're gonna make another field, and this is gonna be enter image description. And the engine model is going to be disk description. And that should be good. And then we're going to do, so we're going to modify this form. So let's do form class form group. Form group, and we're gonna do here on top on the form, we're gonna do ng submit, and remember that function we created is get info. It's right here, get info. So now we're gonna put a class here just to add a little bit of styling. Form control. And finally at the bottom we're going to put a submit button. So button and button type equals submit. And we're going to say submit as the button text. And the class is going to be btn default, and that should give us a good form. And then we could delete this right here. And the title, we could modify the title here, so let's just call it my app. Save that. Save the index.ejs. Save the JavaScript file, Angular mod. And here, when they click get info, so here's a kind of tricky part. So we're gonna actually send to the database a JSON, some JSON information, some JSON data. So let's start by collecting the info from the front end, from the view. So let's start by info equals, this is gonna be a JSON data structure. So it's URL, and the scope of that is .url, comma, description, and this is gonna be scope.description. So we're good to go there. And every time you submit something, you want the fields to clear, so we're gonna set the URL to an empty string and the description to an empty string also, so that whenever you press enter, the field clears, the input field clears, and you're good to go again. So now we're gonna set up the route on right here on the folder route index.js, and let's go see that. We're gonna do router dot, let's see, post, and this is gonna be in get image. So / get image, and right after that we're gonna do function, and the parameters for function is gonna be rec, res, and next. Or you don't really need next for this one. So now let's call in mongoose dependency. Oops, I put mongoose. We don't want that. We want mongoose. What is it require? Mongoose. And then we want our model, and we're just gonna call it pick model equals require, and what we named it, I believe. Let's go check again what we named it. Data model. So let's do that. Data model. And right here we're gonna create a new instance of that model. So let's do var images get images equals new pick model. And now we're gonna get the information from our front end, so we gotta set up a request.body.url, and you'll see how that works in a minute. So we're gonna do let me see, rec.body.url, and just to show you how that works, we're gonna console log that. Okay, so now we have our basic setup so that we get a input from the front end. This is how you get it with the, in this case we're using text, so we could use .body attribute or property, and after that we're requesting the body from the file that we're receiving, and inside that file there's a URL property, and you'll see how that works right now. So right here we're gonna do, give me a second. So right here in our Angular mod.js, we're gonna inject another service, and this is gonna be HTTP, and we're gonna insert it to our parameter. And that's another thing I did wrong in the past. The order that you put the services right here, I believe they're called services, but I could be wrong. But the order that you put them here, you have to put them in the parameters in that same order, or else it won't work. So here in the get info function, we're gonna call a post request. So let's start by using this service http .post, and then the route that we created was, let me check, get image right here. So we're gonna use that right here, and then in the second parameter is the data that you're sending to to the URL, to the route that you put in the first parameter. So whatever you put in the second parameter is gonna go to the route right here. So let's, in the second parameter, let's put the info, this variable right here, and on success we want function, and then here the parameter is what it's getting returned to you, the data that is getting returned to you, and we'll get to that in a second. So what we want to do is put this put the information returned from the database, and therefore the server, back into the array that we created here in the scope my images. So let's do that right now. Scope dot my images dot on shift data. And let's, so here you can see that once the user clicks on the submit button, it's gonna get the URL and the description from the model back to the description here and the URL here, and then it's gonna send that info to the get image route. And once it does that, in the, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna handle this request in the route. So let's go to index.js, and here's what I meant by the console log. So let's see what happens when we submit our field. So let's do URL, and then whatever we receive from the description is gonna show up too. So description, so now let's see what happens in the server when we call that. So let's refresh our page. Wait. So I made a small mistake here, which caused a big problem. And this is supposed to be pic model dot mongoose model dot model, and then that should work. I forgot that you had to put mongoose dot model here instead of require. So please go back and fix that, and that should work for now. So let's go test it. So now the image URL we're gonna use is, let's just do something random here. Let's try to get a small picture. Icon. Let's select this one. Copy image location again. Go enter the image URL, and this is gonna be a planet, the description. So submit, And here is the what we get on the console. HTTP, the URL of the image, and then the URL we put on the console to show up, and then the description is planet. So every time you enter something here, it's gonna come up in the console. So like test, and the description is this is a test, and it shows up here too, test, and this is a test. So now we know that we're receiving data from the front end to our back end. So let's go back to our back end, and let's fix this so that we could actually do something with that data. So we're gonna do um, our new instance of our model, of our data model. So get images. So get images dot URL is gonna be equal to rec dot body dot URL. And this is what this is gonna do is save our URL to the schema, and from this schema is gonna go to the database. So let's go back to our routes and get our description. Rec dot body dot description, and finally we're gonna save get images dot save, and we want to return the actually 1 second. So here we're gonna return a second parameter, and this is gonna be a function with the parameter error, ERR, and we're gonna console.log ERR, or we're just gonna res.status for 1 .json, or let's just leave it like that, res.status 401, and console.log error. So let's do that. And now if we go back to our front end, refresh, we should be able to save a URL now. So let's just do that right now. A planet, and submit that, and that should save it. So now when we refresh our page, so now I believe it's saved to the database. So let's check right here. Let's go back to Heroku, the MLab, and our collections. Let's refresh that. And then here we have our data model. And here we successfully saved it to our database. So as you can see, here is a URL, and the description is a planet. So now let's go back to our JavaScript in the front end, and let's return this info back. So now actually we're gonna go to our routes, and let's set up another route here. And this time is gonna be a get request, and we're gonna set this to get images. We're gonna set this to save image. Return image. And then the function, the normal request and response. Let me set that equal. Let's do semicolons here. So sorry about that noise in the background. It's the bells in the church that's next to my house. But let's continue doing this. And in here we're gonna use our model without creating another instance. So let's go back to see what it's called, and it's called pick model or variable. So let's do that. Pick model dot find, and this is a method in Mongoose, and you could find that in the documentation. So now we're gonna use function, and here we're gonna do an error, and this could be the second parameter inside this function, can be anything you want. It's basically just returning the information that it's finding. So let's just call it data. So now let's do our little throw error. If error, return next ERR. And if there's no error, let's do the response is gonna be a JSON object, and we're gonna return the data back to our front end. And this is actually the heart of this tutorial right here. This is where all the magic happens, and so stay tuned. And now we're gonna go back to our front end, and we're gonna do a HTTP request so that it returns this objects right here, but instead of from the front end, it's gonna return it from the database. So let's do that right now. So HTTP dot get and the URL we use is, let's go back and check what it was. It was return image. Let's make sure we typed it right. Return image. And then we're not gonna be sending anything to the server, so you don't need a second parameter here. So success function, and then here's the data that is returning. And then we're gonna use our angular.copy method, and the data, the first parameter is what you want to be copied from, and the second one is where you want it to be copied to. So let's do scope dot my images. And I believe that should work. If not, let's go back and change that, but let's test it right now. And there you go, it worked. Now it's all set up and ready to go. So let's test it now. Let's just get a random image. Put the URL there. And the image description is going to be my logo from my website. Actually, my website logo. Enter. And then that should be there now. And there you go. Now you could add styling to this. And here you could add a background. And a border and a box shadow. 0, 0, 0, 0, red. PX. This is basically the blur you want to add to it. And now we're gonna use some padding in here. 9%. And maybe get rid of this 5 right here. Or not. And now another color, you can choose another color. Red with maybe gray. Or maybe this color. Copy rule, go back to your page. So now you could go back here and style sheet, style, and then freaking put it there. Save that and it should work now. So let's put another image just to test this out. Let's do maybe this one. Copy image location. Put the fucking image there. Random image. You can refresh the page. And there it's gonna be. So everything's there now. And then what we want to do is show the description. So let's do that right now. Let's see. Let's just add right here h2 tag and the description of it, which is images dot description, and that should work okay. Oh, there you go. My website logo, random image. And that's basically it for this tutorial. I hope you like it. This is really helpful if you're barely starting off. And I will be putting the code in GitHub so you could play around with it. And that's it for now. Thank you guys.